Welcome, everybody, to Sally Speaks podcast about mindset. I am Sally Arkell-Boles, and I'm your host today. I believe that you deserve to create wealth, success, and the life you've always desired. My passion lies in helping you to break through the barriers that you have to success, provide you with the tools to create your dreams, and mentor you on how to achieve your goals so you can live your best life. My podcast is designed to inspire, educate, and motivate you to success. And my guests are leaders in their field and have incredible stories and journeys to share with you. And today, I am really excited to introduce you to Antonia Varbanova. Now, she is a life chapter builder. She works with people that are in their midlife. So she calls them midlifers, and who they really want to make a change and build the life they've always wanted to have. And I would fit perfectly into that category because that's exactly what I did. I completely changed my life in the last few years, and I can tell you it was the best thing I ever did. Now, she's also had some personal experience and understands the struggles, the fears, the uncertainties that those of us that are midlife really want or are experiencing, but also the changes that we're kind of desiring. And so I think today you're going to find it very, very interesting. She's the owner of Connecting Fragments, with multicultural and multinational experience. And today we're going to be calling it, if not now, when, and if not you, who. So welcome, Antonia. I'm really excited to have a conversation with you today because I think we have a lot of similarities in the work that we do, but also in how we support others to actually make that, be aware of and understand that they have the ability to make a change even in midlife. So tell us a little bit about your story.
My story began many years ago, since I'm a midlifer. And I have been living for more than half of my life away from my country. So I have been living in different countries, different cultures. And this is where the chapter builder came, because my life runs in chapters depending on where I am and the culture I live in, and I have to adjust. And this is where my passion comes from, changing and growing and exploring what's around us and the opportunities we have.
Mm-hmm. So, I know that I've made a lot of changes in my life, and I've moved all over Canada, but I haven't moved from country to country to country like you have. So what countries have you actually gone to and kept your business going or created your business, and how many different places have you stopped along the way?
For some people it's many places, for some people it's not that many places. But originally I started in Bulgaria and I lived there until I was 24, and then my husband and I moved to the UK, where I spent 5 years, he spent a bit longer. And I lived there. Then from there, we moved to the US. We lived there for 14 years. And then we moved to Singapore. So we're not only hopping countries, but we're hopping continents.
Continents, yeah. That's crazy. So now a lot of us have made changes along the way, but those are big changes to have to adjust to. What was your technique of, rejigging yourself to be able to really get into the culture that you were moving to and the languages, because there's lots of different languages involved. Have you mastered certain languages along the way that also helped you, or tell us about that?
Yeah, languages, I was, let's say, fortunate, because in every country where we lived, one of the official languages was English. So I didn't have to learn a whole language, but as they say, Britain and the US are two countries divided by the same language, because even moving to the US, I had to adjust to a different vocabulary, though it wasn't that striking difference. But here in Singapore, as they say, there is a local version of English, which is called Singlish. And knowing these words is helpful when you go out, because very often when you talk to locals, they use these words. And if you don't know them, you might miss the essence of the conversation, like the fun part of the conversation. So yeah, adjusting from country to country in terms of the way we live, the most helpful thing for me was just to expect that it would be different, and not to expect that the ways I lived and how I know what I know for being the way of living is going to change and may not be what I'm used to. And some of the things are better, some of the things are worse, some of the things are just different. But if you have an open mindset and that you know that it may not be what you expect, then it's easier to adjust. And I also experienced different mindsets and how people adjust to it. I've seen people who come with a fixed mindset and they expect that it would be exactly how they live, and they really struggle. And then I've seen people who come with open arms and like, let's embrace the new culture, and they have a blast because they just enjoy everything, every little change. They see it as something new and something that enriches them. And yeah, that's pretty much the mindset is what helps you or gets you to struggle in your new environment.
Yeah, because I mean, it is difficult to go to different cultures and to learn all about the cultures, and sometimes even the food is very different, and the
yeah,
people are able to access is a lot different than their favorite foods. So there's a lot of different elements that come into play. Now, you also have a young family.
Yeah, it's teenagers now. They're teenagers, but I have 3 children.
So how was it for them adjusting to move to the different continents as you've been moving around?
They only moved from the US to Singapore because they were born in the US, and they were 8, 10, and 12 when we moved to Singapore, and they did struggle. They did struggle for a part of it, but for children, they adjusted quicker to the change of scenery, the culture. This part they adjusted very quickly. The difficult part for them is leaving their friends behind and the connections they had back in the US, and they felt lonely and for a while. And then once they started making friends at school, in our neighborhood, they started feeling at home.
Oh, good. Yeah, because that's really important. I mean, we have one child and we moved him all over Canada. But when we got to the high school years, I promised him we'd stay in the same place until he graduated. So I achieved that goal, which was a good one. But it is tougher for them because they are needing that connection with their friends, right? And that's where they get a lot of their play and their enjoyment. So excellent. Yeah. Now tell me about your work. With Connected Fragments, what is it that you're finding are the challenges that we're seeing in the midlifers today that you're able to work with them about? Because I think there's so many people sitting in their offices and wonder what it would be like to not be in this office, or should I even give up this job? It's got a good pension. All of these types of thoughts, I think, go through a lot of people's minds, and they want something different, but they're afraid to go after it. So tell me what you've seen with your clients.
It's you just mentioned the biggest challenge they have. It's when you said, shall I give away the good pension? And this is the biggest struggle, because many midlifers and many of my clients are not prepared to start changing their life, because they think they have to give away something they already have in order to change their life. And it doesn't have to be this way, because if you plan a little bit, if you work a little bit to create your new environment and to find the best solution for you where you want to be, you don't have to give away everything. You don't have to give away the pension. You don't have to take a pay cut. It just requires support, planning, and then execution at the right time. And this is the biggest struggle. I had quite a few clients where we would meet, we would start talking, and they would feel like they have to quit their life to start the new life. But then throughout our work, they discover that actually everything they have, they can still have it. They just have to find what they want to do next, and then start building up to this point. And this is the biggest struggle. And then I would say that another big struggle is that many mid-career, midlife people have the thinking that it's too late for them to start changes.
Yes.
And in reality, a 50-year-old person has another 25, maybe even 30 years ahead of them, which most of them could be productive years, active years. But many people think that they already kind of, their life is over. And they only had, if you think, they already had 25 years of productive time, and they have another 25 years ahead. But they're prepared to wait for retirement rather than change anything. So again, going back to mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's very common these days, because we've grown up in a society, at least we have in North America, where you get a good job, you stay with the job, you have a good pension, you retire at 65, and then your life goes on. And I think there's a lot of people that are really struggling with that now. And they're saying there's got to be more. There's got to be more to life. There's got to be more to my enjoyment. I've got so much knowledge, and I want to be able to create something that's going to fill me up with excitement and joy and creativity and taking myself to the next level. So what are your experiences with that when you're working with your clients, as far as, what are you noticing that's a common denominator amongst people as far as what their real desires are once you start working with them?
Yes, it's everybody I talk to wants a better life. And I talk to, everybody wants a better life, period. Even the people we think that have everything, they still want a better life. Might not be, for some, it may be a better financially, their life. For some, they may want more fulfilling relationships, but everybody wants a better life. And I've noticed that everything comes down to being loved and respected. And if you dig down deep enough, you will find that everybody wants to feel loved and respected. And once they uncover this, then very often the outcome that they want from working with me changes, because then they align their beliefs and values to where they want to be. And this is where the transformation happens, when you reach balance in your life. And I think this is the cause for a lot of stress and anxieties in the life of my clients, where their values and beliefs are not aligned with the lifestyle they have. They have to make a lot of compromises. They have to give up a lot of their dreams because they are not in balance. And once we get this balance, then they have a happier life.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I work with similar type of clients a lot. And what I find is when they first come to work with me, they don't even really understand what their dreams are. They just know that they're really disturbed and something's bothering them, and they're not happy. They're not feeling that they're living their best life. And so to dig down and actually bring out their dreams and their wishes for their future, it's just so not only enlightening, but it's so empowering for them. So once your clients reach that stage where they're like, okay, this is what I want to do now, I like working with you, what's the next stage that you would take them through?
Now, then once we start working, I work with them in connecting their outcome again to their beliefs, because and values, because once they see why what they want to achieve matters to them. It's usually, let's say someone says, I want a better paid job, and then they start looking for different professions or even different jobs. And when we work, they connect where they connect the desire to have a better paid job to why they want to have it. And most often is so they can provide to their family. They can have a better pension when they retire. So their husband or wife can have a better lifestyle in their old years, or they want to have more money so they can pay for better education for their children. And as I said, it comes down to love and respect. And so this is the first step. And then once they make this connection, it's once they know their why, as Simon Sinek says, find your why, then it's really easy. And it's not easy, but it's easier to find your way and to figure out what you want to do. And then things move quicker.
Yeah, so I think I love what you're saying, because it really does come down to, why are you wanting this change? Why are you feeling, first of all, why are you feeling uncomfortable? And then why are you really wanting this change? And how are you going to feel when you actually step into this change and you actually start to live differently? So now, are most of your clients also moving from a corporate into self-employment, or are they choosing different lifestyles as far as maybe moving away from their country and going to somewhere where it's less expensive to live, and sort of not staying till the full term of their retirement, but leaving early? Like, what are you finding? Because I'm finding all sorts of different areas in my clients' lives that are triggering them to take the different steps forward. What are you finding?
Interestingly, I haven't had a client who moves to another country. Like moving to another country, I haven't had a client, even though I live in an expat community. But I think a lot of people who are prepared to leave, they already left during COVID, because this was the opportunity to go back. And I work with clients who I don't have a single one who relocated, but some of my clients want to stay in the industry they are. They just want a better position. I have a few clients who wanted to change their lifestyle, change to go to the private sector. I mean, start their own business. And some of them wanted to find a balance, a hybrid, where they work enough so they can support their family, but also convert a hobby or passion into a part-time thing. So eventually when they retire, then they can focus on it, but they already started building it. Because if you wait until you retire to start this, there is the risk of losing the connections you have now that can help you start building up your new life. And so some of them, and then I have another type of clients which stay where they are. They don't want to change their jobs, but they want to have a more balanced life where they are. So they change their routines, they change the way they do things. Like, for example, I had a client who couldn't find time to exercise, and an executive professional, and she just could not find the time during the week, and she either had to exercise at 4 a.m. or 10 p.m. and none of them worked for her, because she also has other responsibilities. And it turned out that she had to rearrange her day, because, for example, she had meetings here and meetings there, and in the middle she would have a little bit of admin time. And then once we figured out where she was losing time during the day, she could reorganize her day, and suddenly there were 2 hours in the day that she could use for exercise. She used them for exercise and other things, but sometimes it's this kind of work, realizing where you're wasting your time.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of busyness in our work careers right now that keep us thinking that we don't have any of our own time to actually be able to enjoy, especially if you're looking at from 4 a.m. to 10 p.m. That's a long window to be committing to your job or your profession, and not bringing anything to yourself. So I think, having that balance, number one, in our careers, but number two, if we're going into a business as well, it can be very overwhelming for a lot of people when they step into owning their own business, because they typically will wear all the hats and not delegate out different pieces when they start, right? So they might not have an admin, they might not have a social media person, they might not have creative, all of those things. So I think it's really important for us to really emphasize that that time that you're spending is spent on the activities that are really going to move you forward and give you the health that you're looking for, as in the example of the lady you were working with. So when you're working, like, I just love this because it's all about the mindset. And I'm a big mindset gal. But I love that it's about the mindset, because I'm seeing so many people in our generation that aren't believing as well that they need to stop working at 65 because they're younger, they're feeling young still, they don't want to retire, and they want to continue to do something. And they may be at that stage where, you know, retirement's just around the corner, but they're wanting to do something more productive for the next, like you said, 10, 15 years, or 20 years that they have after retirement. So what is your perspective on that from a mindset and people starting out in their own businesses afterwards?
Yeah, it's something exciting to me, because I'm seeing more and more midlifers realizing this and wanting to do it. And it makes a big difference, because even now they want to have something when they retire, but even now, knowing that retirement is not the end of the road, they work differently, they live differently now, because they don't have the feeling, oh, I have another 5 years to retirement and then that's it, I'll be at home doing nothing. And this gives them energy and desire to start changing things now, because then the end of the road is not in 5 years time, the end of the road is in 20 years time or 25 years time. And suddenly they realized, oh wait, this is quarter of a century potentially of me doing stuff, so I might as well pay a little bit more attention. And I see more and more mid-career people coming to this realization. While it was very different with my parents' generation, and I see it when I'm with my parents, the old thinking is, oh, once you retire, what can you do? You just stay home, do the grocery shopping, go to the store, maybe go see the neighbors, and that's it. Your grandchildren would come to visit, and that's it. You just do nothing. And there are still people our age who have this mentality, but it is changing. And I can see, and I think this is the silver lining of COVID. A lot of people had the opportunity to pause and reevaluate their lives and ask the question, how do I want to live and what do I want to do, so I can be happier and more satisfied? Because COVID exposed a lot of stuff that was there, but hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, I think that that's a big observation, because what I've seen as well is that it made people really believe that, wow, I might not have that much time, I better make the most of it. And I love that piece of it. And they also want to be around other people, right? So I think a lot of people are working remotely as opposed to in the office now, but I think people are really getting, all of a sudden they're longing to be around other humans for work. So whether that's a networking event or being out, promoting a product at a trade show, whatever it might be that your goal is or your dream is, I think people are really recognizing the power of being around other people. And to me, that's a big mindset shift as well, because the fear was there for quite some time, but the loneliness was there. And now people want to make up for that lost time, but they also understand the value in being around other people and what that would bring to their life. So I think that from a mindset perspective, it's a much healthier environment now than it was. And people are wanting to engage. And I love that piece of it. And I've noticed a lot of similar things to what you're speaking about, because we deal with a lot of clients that are our age range, right? That's normal for us to be doing that. But I also understand from, you're an empath, right? And so how is it for you? Because you're that midlife person that's out there working with other people. How are you managing through that? Because a lot of people tend to judge based off of how we show up. So how do you actually handle that from a mindset perspective and in business? Because a lot of people say, oh, well, if I'm this way, how could I be successful in my own business? And so I want you to be able to explain a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's judging. Yeah, judging is I think in a national sport in my country, and I think it's I joke about this, but it's everywhere. People judge, and they see you and they start thinking, oh, how, for example, for me, how are they going to help me when they're like me? And but empathy, yes, empathy and understanding helps, and it always works, because there was a, I think there was a movie called Kind, and they said, if you have to be right or you have to be kind, choose kind. And this is always winning, because when you show understanding, when you show interest in the other person, when you just let them be themselves, you don't expect from them to act in a certain way, you always connect to them, and people want to feel accepted, they want to feel loved, and this is how we connect. And once we make the connection, then it's just two people working together. So yeah, judging usually breaks the connection, because nobody wants someone pointing a finger at them and telling them what's wrong with them. But yeah, it's,
well, and I think it also brings you closer you're able to listen and really hear what people are saying, and you can empathize with what they're going through, and be able to guide them. And I think that's what a lot of people are looking for now. They're looking for someone that can understand who they are and what they're going through. And I think that really does serve you, because I know you have that up on your LinkedIn, so it's not secret. But I want to just bring that forward, because there's a lot of people that would judge and say, oh, well, why would I do that? Well, it's not a detriment, in my opinion. It's a strength. And especially when you're coaching people, because you need to be empathetic, you need to be a good listener, you need to really hear what they're saying so that you can guide them. So I really appreciate that you actually hold yourself out like that, because a lot of people will hide behind how their true nature. And I think it's just one of those things that I see as this beautiful glow about you that allows you to be able to come forward with all of your greatness and serve your clients.
yeah.
So now tell us a little bit about what you've gone through as far as the challenges that you faced and the fears that you've had as you've moved forward in all of the changes that have happened in your life.
Yeah, it's as I said at the beginning, my life runs in chapters. So I've changed careers multiple times, and I changed cultures multiple times, and there was, every single time I had to find myself again in the new place I was. For example, when I left Bulgaria to move to the UK with my husband, I worked in Bulgaria. I had my community, my family, and then suddenly I moved to a new culture with people I didn't know. The only person I knew was my husband and two other people. And I had to find where I belonged and start building from there. Now, I was very young then, and I didn't know what I was doing. So there was a lot of struggle, a lot of stress. I didn't know why this was happening to me, why I couldn't feel I belonged in this place. And a year later, I had friends, and I found a community. Most of the people are my husband's friends, who literally adopted me. And I felt at home. Then moving to the US was a very different adjustment, because when we moved to the US, I gave up my career, and I was 7 months pregnant with our first child.
Oh, wow.
So it was no, and in the US, we only knew two people who lived 50 miles away from us.
Oh.
So we couldn't really see them. And it was a lonely time, and at the same time, a happy time, because we were expecting our first child, and this was the happy part. And it was a lonely time because we didn't know anyone. My husband started a new job, and we had the apartment where we lived, and that was it. We had to ask people for directions to the nearest store, because the internet was not developed well. Google, we did not exist at the time, and we had to ask directions to find food. And so this was a big struggle. And then this is probably where my growth started, because when we had our child, I had to become, I'm an introvert, as you can see. I don't feel comfortable going and talking to strangers and socializing, talking to crowds. I do now when I have to, but then it was, for me, was a big struggle. But then I had to become the speaker for my daughter and then my two sons. After that, I had to be the person protecting them, standing in front. And this is where my growth started. I started opening up, talking to people, connecting. And then I developed a different business. I went back to my artistic side. So I started my art business, and I connected to a different community. And I kept growing, and I kept exploring and changing. And this is the part I love. It's not easy changing, and it's not easy connecting to people who you don't know and who are different from you very often. But this is the part where you grow as an individual, because you learn new things about the world and about yourself as well. You very often you surprise yourself with things that you thought you couldn't do or you're not good at. And because we all have this narrative going on telling us we're not good at this, we're not good at that. And this is where I started growing. And then we came to Singapore, completely different culture, completely different way of living, different everything. And then COVID started, and I started my life coaching journey, went back to school, studied, started coaching, and now I see people transform their lives, and it's beautiful when you see them becoming happier. And the satisfaction is even bigger because the happiness comes from within, because they created their new life and they changed the things that were an obstacle in their life. And once it was removed, you could see them, they feel like, oh, wow, now I can do everything. If I change this in my life, what else can I do? And it changes their mindset.
Absolutely. I always say the joy is in the journey, because it is so much growth, and you are exploring a different side of yourself that you're able to, at the end of the journey or partway through the journey, you're realizing, wow, this is so much better. At the beginning, sometimes it can feel a little uncomfortable, but once you start adopting and moving into it, you absolutely start to enjoy the journey, and you start to understand how much more growth there is potentially inside of you. And it really is beautiful when your clients transform. I know what that's like. It's so wonderful to see that change.
None of them ever said, I wish I could go back. And everybody says, I wish I'd done it earlier. And
So when you're talking about that, you're talking about they wish they had made that change earlier. They had, because they've probably been thinking about it for a number of years, but stayed with what their current mindset was. Oh no, this is why I need to stay here. This is why I need to do this. And then once they open that up and they're like, oh, wow, this is what it's like on the other side. I could have done this like 10 years ago and had so much more fun and more success. So I think there's definitely that option for people to be able to really see what it's like to step into that future that they've always dreamed of. And I know it's there because they've all got these dreams deep inside of them that they're dying to bring out, but they just don't know how to even approach it. So congratulations on you for stepping up and helping a lot of people with that, because it just is so soul fulfilling for us as coaches to be able to work with clients like that and to see the transition and the transformation. It's just so beautiful to watch. So now, what other things should we be bringing up about what you do? Because I want to make sure we're covering everything. And I know that you're just amazing at what you do. What are some of the challenge solution pieces of that when you're fine tuning? Because we're hearing about the bigger elements, but what are some of the modalities or systems that you're using as you're going through this process with your clients?
Oh, the one thing I always say is, because most clients come and they have a bigger change on mind, like they want to change their lifestyle, they want to change their career, they want to change the the relationships in their life. And I always say, start with something small steps. Don't go for the big change straight ahead, but small changes lead to big, small steps lead to big changes. And this is pretty much how I do it, because if we do a big change, sudden change, our brain starts fighting back to reestablish the status quo, because our mind thinks that this is safe, this is where I have to stay, and then it's a struggle. So I always say that small steps. This is why earlier I said, if you plan well and if you work on establishing a plan, then you start moving, because if you know the steps you have to do, it's easier. If you have a big gap and then you know I have to end up on the other side, it's much more difficult.
Absolutely.
And it's one thing that can be helpful is Atomic Habits by James Clear, the book. This is pretty much how change is done in any aspect of life, through small changes, small steps, and then you create the new habit, the new environment.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you just before you said that, what books would you recommend? And then you go and give me one.
Well, I'm talking about mindset.
Yeah,
Maybe the book Mindset by Carol Dweck.
okay.
She,
That's
yeah, it's I'm actually really rereading the book, and it's wonderful about changing a fixed mindset to a growth mindset.
Yes.
And the difference in the way people live and operate when they have these mindsets. And it's amazing once you realize, if you have a fixed mindset, once you realize how this is stopping you and you start making changes, how far you can go and how free you can feel. Because then you don't have the mentality that everything is set in stone and I have to prove myself and I have to be respected for what I am. Yes. And the growth mindset is, I have to change, I have to grow. Failing at something is a learning experience, and you grow and you learn and you get better. That's another book.
There we go. And have you written any books? Oh,
I read all the time.
Have you written one yourself? Have you got your own book?
Oh, written. Oh, sorry. No. But a couple of people said maybe I should write a book about my life. But no, this is. I haven't even considered it. It's. I write a lot. I write stories. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I write every day, and in fact, I'm a member of a writing club, virtual writing club. I don't know if you've heard of London Writers Salon. Okay. And they used to meet at the beginning, pre-COVID. They met I think in a cafe in London. And then when COVID started, they switched to Zoom. And now they have 3 writing salons, Zoom writing salons around the world in different time zones. Nice. And every day you log in at the same time. Like the one I log in is 8 to 9 a.m. London time in the morning, to meet in the afternoon. And then for 1 hour, you stay there and you write. And you're accountable to another, like usually there are 200-300 people who sign up to this salon from all over the world. And then you write wherever you need to write. And it's amazing how much work you can do when you know that this is what I'm doing and I'm doing it with other people. So I do write a lot every day. And it's, but no, book, I haven't considered writing a book.
That's your next step. I can tell there's a book inside of you, so I think you need to think about that.
That's probably a limiting belief I have, because I don't see myself as a writer.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you should absolutely explore it. So now, when we opened up, we said, if not now, when? If not you, who? So tell me a little bit about what you mean with that, so that it's influencing the people that are watching today, because I believe in this wholeheartedly, but tell us your perspective on that.
Yeah, it's a question for my for my clients, and I think it's applicable to anyone, because if not now, if you don't do the changes now, when are you going to do? We don't have limitless time. Time is running out. This is the most precious thing we have, that we can never take back. Once the time is gone, it's gone. And so if not now, when? It's a trigger to start thinking about your time and what you want to achieve, because in 5 years' time, you will be 5 years older and you would still be thinking, oh, I want to do this, or then later in life, it turns into a regret. And then you start thinking, oh, I wish I did this. Yes. And then if not you, who? Nobody is going to change your life. Nobody is going to put on hold their own life so they can make your dreams come true. You are responsible for your own life and to make the changes you want so you can have a happier life.
Awesome. Love that. And I think that is how we're going to close today, but it's been wonderful speaking to you today, Antonia.
Thank you.
And I think that, one of the messages that's very clear is that now is the time. Now is the time to explore what your life could look like. So whether, you're a midlifer, whether you're in a corporate career, whether you're self-employed, whether you're just a digital nomad, who knows where people are today, everybody can have that next stage of their life and really step into their dream life, in my opinion, because I think there's so many dreams that we've bottled up inside, and we know they're there, but we just haven't allowed them to come forward. And that's where having someone like Antonia in your life, or myself, that really works with people on their mindset to help them to have that better performance is just amazing. And so now, before we close, I just want to get you to tell us, where can we find you? I will put it up where we post, but I want you to tell them where they can find you. And do you work with people globally?
Yes, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I truly enjoyed our conversation. It was a pleasure talking to you. And yes, so I work globally. I have clients from all over the world. The only place probably I haven't had a client is Antarctica, but there is still time. Wow. And you can find me on my website, which is connectingfragments.com, and I'm very active on LinkedIn. I have a community there, and you can find me here in Singapore. If you want to meet me in person, just send me a message. I'm in Singapore for the next few years.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for your time today. I would highly recommend that you look in a little bit further to what Antonia does. She's got lots of experience. She loves what she does. You can tell she has a passion for really serving others and for helping them transform their lives. And that's just the most beautiful thing you can do in someone's life. And so if not now, when? And if not you, who? So think about that as we're signing off today. Thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and I'm sure this is going to be a really popular podcast. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.